woman on this panel. And I almost walked out just on the strength of that. But the only reason why I didn't is because that is a systemic issue here in Congress and often for people who come before this committee. And if you don't have one woman in a position of leadership and authority that should be there, then that is also a problem. But again, women, hundreds of women, the report detailed hundreds of women who experienced harassment with no recourse. For over a decade, the FDIC, under your leadership and your predecessors, ignored them. Chair Gruenberg, in November, in fact, not that long ago, you stated that the FDIC already has, quote, appropriate policies and procedures in place, unquote. Do you now agree, and this is a yes or no question, I'm serious, do you now agree that the policies and procedures in place have been a cataclysmic failure and an affront to the many women who have been harassed, pushed out of the FDIC, and forced to change their career goals and life trajectory?
They have failed, yes, Congresswoman.
Small, ashamed, traumatized, humiliated, alone. These are just a few of the words to describe the intense feelings of sexual harassment and what survivors endure. According to the FDIC's own reporting, more than 80% of harassment complaints resulted in zero discipline. And when there were repercussions, not a single one resulted in removal, reductions in grade or pay, or any discipline more serious than a temporary suspension. I am so tired of white men failing up. This lack of accountability is a shameful, inadequate, and deeply unsatisfactory, and it is re-traumatizing.
What's going on, everyone? Salsa King here today. You just saw the intro. Ayanna Pressley is a congresswoman on the House floor who made a viral statement that's going viral on X. I am so tired of white man failing up. Right? And you guys saw the full context. You know, some people will accuse me of clipping things out of context, but here's the clip.
I am so tired of white men failing up. This lack of accountability is a shameful, inadequate, and deeply unsatisfactory, and it is re-traumatizing. Chair Gruenberg,
So she's talking about, as you saw from the intro, you got some of the context. She was talking about how in the FDIC, if I remember this correctly, didn't really prosecute majority of the complaints that women filed against their superiors or other males in that space. And one of the things that I was always asking was, hey, can I get like an example of something that's very atrocious that happened? Or merely the act of a woman accusing a man of doing something by default automatically makes the man guilty of something, right? This is the problem I have with a lot of Democratic women, the Me Too movement, the Believe All Women movement, is that they have this presumption as if women don't lie. Women can't lie. Like women are angels. Oh, like women are perfect. They can do no wrong. As if women will never use sexual allegations for their own gains. We have many examples of that all over the internet. You don't even have to try at this point. So the idea that just because a woman says something and their accountability has to immediately do that. Now, maybe there was some wrongdoing that was found, but this idea of white man failing up is just as racist if you said a black woman failed up, even though you can make valid cases that there's many such cases. I can make the argument for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is not like actually a black woman, but the idea is that it seemed like liberal women fell up. Liberal women can have no track record of actually being successful in their roles, but because I want you guys to focus on the first part of my intro of that video, her focus was, when she came into the room, the fact that she saw nothing but white men or nothing but men wanted her to leave out the room in the first place. So in and of itself, she admitted that she's not only a racist, but also a sexist. Because she believed that, oh, women need to be in positions of power and leadership, regardless of who is the most qualified. That's like me saying, oh, just because I went to an NBA game, I saw nothing but black players, I almost walked out of the room because this is systemic racism. How that makes sense? On one hand, black people like to say that when they're successful at something, it's not because of their race, but when they're failing at something or they're not as representative at something, it's because of racism. Make it make sense. Oh, this system uphold white supremacy. Okay, how come white people ain't dominating the NBA? How come there's an overrepresentation of NBA players and of basketball players in the NBA? Black basketball players in the NBA, 74%. 74% of a league dominated by a minority? Isn't that systematic racism? Can you make the argument for systematic racism in that context as well? It's this idea that, and this is something that I always been having to fight against liberals, is the idea that my successes in life is attributed to them when in reality it's attributed to my own efforts, my family, how they raised me, my culture. That's what allows me to be successful in life. But a lot of these black liberals, black Democrats specifically, they like to pretend that affirmative action is actually effective and is actually helping. Oh, without affirmative action, black people like you wouldn't even get an opportunity to be successful, Kenny. And I go, well, that's a lie, because prior to the 1960s, we were economically flourishing. We had black millionaires. We had ex-slaves dying millionaires. But you want to sit here in my face and tell me that the only reason that I have an opportunity to be successful in life is because of affirmative action? Make it make sense. We had black college graduates, in their third generation. Martin Luther King is a perfect example of that. He was a third generation college graduate, but you want to pretend that affirmative action was actually the reason why black people were successful. This is why I'm saying that affirmative action is racism under new management. People who push affirmative action want to attribute that black people can't do nothing for themselves. It's this idea of racial helplessness that's being pushed in the black community. This is why the black community survived slavery, segregation, racism, but it couldn't survive liberal policies, because liberal policies put in the head of black people that, hey, you're helpless because of your skin color.
There have been many examples of progress in race relations, and especially of economic progress by groups that used to lag further behind others than they do today. Many individuals and organizations have claimed credit for that progress, but, as has been said in other contexts, victory has 100 fathers and defeat is an orphan. Those who celebrate the rise in incomes, occupations, education, and in other ways among blacks, Hispanics, and other American minorities, and in many cases celebrate the ideas, policies, and leaders supposedly responsible for this progress, seldom even attempt to cite ideas, policies, or leaders responsible for such things as a rising murder rate among blacks and others in the 1960s, despite the fact that their murder rates had been going down, especially among black males, prior to the 1960s. The catastrophic decline of the black family and the social consequences of increasing majorities of fatherless children in the wake of the burgeoning welfare state in the 1960s has few contemporaries prepared to take responsibility, and many prepared to blame it on a legacy of slavery.
And this is the problem I have with the Democratic Party, because they have the black vote voting them for them like at a 90% clip, but black people complain that they're abused by the Democratic Party. They in an abusive relationship with the Democratic Party, but they don't want to do anything to change about it. It seems like in black culture, and this is one of the reasons why I kind of push it back against toxic black culture, is that it is a culture of complainers. A culture of, oh, I'm a victim. Oh, everything's against me. Oh, I got obstacles. I got more obstacles. This exaggerated victimhood, this exaggerated obstacles. Oh, the world's against me. Everything's white supremacy. But then when you point out, oh, how come this group can make it? They look just like you. They just come from a different culture. Oh, they're not really black. I'm tired of this idiocy. Democrat racist Ayanna Pressley clearly has no problem with black women filling up. The Harvard president, who's been accused of plagiarism, who doesn't seem like she was effective at her job at all, right? She couldn't maintain order in Harvard, allowing anti-Semitic protests to break out in her college campuses. Imagine this: the people that pushes discrimination. Oh, we hate systematic racism. We hate discrimination. We hate racism. But they condone people doing things that if it was targeted towards black people, they would respond very differently. This is the problem that people have. Yeah, we're fed up with racists like her. I refuse to be lectured about racism by someone who hates white people, aka someone who hates blank people, someone who hates black people, someone who hates Asian people. And I can't even make the argument, right? Because Anna Presley talking about failing upwards, right? I gave you Kamala Harris as an example, right? What about all these black liberal women that seem to not be able to do their job competently? I'll put Letitia James in the same category. How are you trying to prosecute a guy? You going against legal precedents. You finding him $500 million, that which is outside of the norm for a charge, and then you get mad when you get pushback. And then when you get pushback, you want to say, "Oh, it's because of my race." People are blaming me because of racism. Make it make sense. I don't know when people are going to get tired of these race hustlers. I think this is why I think identity politics was the worst thing to ever happen to black people, right? And I don't understand. Look, this is another thing that we struggle against in the black community, because this is like what a lot of people think. Systematic white supremacy is a welfare program that offers an unwritten insurance policy that protects whiteness. This idea of whiteness, what is it? I want to know. What is this idea of whiteness? Showing up on time, save your money, investing your money, finding jobs, high income job skills, train yourself in those skills, and then get a high paying job. Be financially responsible. Limit consumerism. Because the black community is very materialist, as you can see. What our rap culture pushes out. What people like Sexy Red pushes out. That's what you want me to co-sign? Sexy Red? Oh, hell no. Cardi B won't even let her daughter listen to WAP. Yet here you are saying, oh my God, when we criticize WAP, oh my God, you don't like black culture. You hating on us. You ain't black. Why? Because I don't follow the stereotypes that you put out in front of us? The only thing that's systematically holding black people back is the culture and the generations of bad decisions, bad mindsets, bad habits that's been passed down from the previous one. That's the only thing systematically affecting black folks. And that is of our own doing. Not because of what white people choose to do or not to do. Black people's state in life has never been determined on whether what white people or other groups of people chooses to do for or not for black people. It's always based on what you do. Just like my outcomes is not tied on with what other people think of me, what other people do for me. It's based on my own hard work, because that's the only thing I can control. And instead of getting us to focus on things that we can't control, these black leaders, these fake pro-blacks, always getting you to focus on things that's outside of your control. Instead of saying, okay, if no one else wants to invest in your education, why don't we come together as a group of people and focus on our own education, contribute to our own education, donate to our own education, to uplift ourselves. But it seems like the black community has a lot of liberal mindset of racial helplessness, critical race theory, to infect their culture and to tell them that, no, you're helpless because of your skin color. You need the help of the white people to win. And it makes these self-hating white liberals who, based on the stats, have a negative bias against their own group of people, feel good about themselves using black people as the eternal victim that they must come and help save. This is why I say black power in 2024 relies on white guilt. But that's a power that's dependent on whiteness. And then the black Democrat has the gall to say that black conservatives want white acceptance, when a black Democrat's whole ideology relies on white acceptance. Because God forbid the white liberals don't feel guilty about being white, you're going to see a lot of this race hustle stuff die. That's the only reason they sit here complaining about whiteness, because white liberals are willing to fund it, encourage it, and give it a platform. That's the only reason. Ayanna Pressley, look, this is some of what she's known for. Ayanna Pressley encourages people to celebrate abortion on the birth of Jesus Christ. Now, that's the most coolest shit I ever heard, because abortion disproportionately affects black people. And based on a liberal definition of racism, anything that disproportionately affects black people is racist. So therefore, you have Ayanna Pressley, fake pro-black, encouraging a thing that disproportionately affects black people. That disproportionately negatively affect black people, by the way. Because if I make the argument, because everything's exponential when it comes to birth rates, if 1972 conservatives had it their way, the black community would have been the second largest voting bloc in America today. That's a lot of political power. But the Democrats don't want black people to be the second largest group of people in America, because then you can't control them. You can't get them to vote 90% for one party because they're too big to control. So does abortion help black people, or does it help Democrats? I'll let you make that conclusion for yourself. Ayanna Pressley and Ibram X. Kendi is pushing for voting age to be lowered to 16 years old. When I always make the argument that Democrats rely on the ignorant vote, a lot of black people get mad at me. A lot of people say, oh, Kendi, it's not because we're ignorant, it's because we know what's up. No, you don't. You only know a narrative that's been pushed to you and taught to you by people of the political left. That's all y'all know. Voting age to 16 years old. What does a 16-year-old know about running the country? What does a 16-year-old know about civics? very small percentage of them do know something about the government, do study up on politics and political history and the history of America. But a lot of these 16-year-olds don't know nothing. And you want them to vote? That shows you that school is just a means to produce activists. And these activists tend to be what? Left wing. But when I make this correlation, hey, you got a liberal, you've been given a liberal washed version of history. Liberals go, no, that's not true. When conservatives push out their version of history, say, hey, look, this is the facts backing up our stance on history. Liberals call it revisionist history. But 1619 is not revisionist history. Make it make sense. And I'm tired of this victimhood Olympics that a lot of black liberal women seem to be participating in. That they're the internal victim, they're the biggest victims, women this, women that. But what about responsibility? When is it going to be women's responsibility to actually take outcomes into their own hands? Why men are always in the position of power? Men start more businesses and men also fail more. So if you got more men disproportionately starting more businesses, would it make sense that men will disproportionately be represented in Fortune 500 companies? This is the scenario, this is a perfect analogy of how a lot of feminists come across to me. Is when your son, right, he builds a tree house. This is a common scenario. Son builds a tree house with dad. Daughter stays inside and watches father and her brother build said tree house. Once tree house is finished, completed, and dad goes back into his couch to go rest, daughter comes out and says, I want to play in the tree house. Son says, no, only me and dad allowed in the tree house because me and dad built it. Daughter cries, Mom, my brother won't let me go in the tree house. Mom says, well, now, son, be nice to your sister and let her play in the tree house. And next thing you know, she ends up taking over the whole space, decorating how she sees fit. And the boy goes, hey, you can't be doing this. Like you shouldn't be trying. You're already taking over, and you didn't even contribute one iota to building this treehouse. And it seemed like this is what the case that a lot of liberal women, especially feminists, project themselves. After men do all the hard lifting, the heavy lifting of making the company profitable. Once it becomes a long-standing company that's been around for decades, years, that's when they want to move in and manage everything. And they perceive that they can manage it better. Ask Bud Light how that turned out for them. The first woman VP for Bud Light, for Budweiser, I forgot the name of the parent company. And what she do? Her marketing campaign nearly destroyed the company. They still feeling the effects of her bad decision making. But they hired her because of what? Oh, we need more women in leadership. No, how about we want more competent people in leadership? How about that? And if they happen to be a woman, so what? Okay. But don't hire them because they're a woman. That's sexist. Don't hire them because they're black. That's racist. This is why I said affirmative action is racism under new management. And it is baffling that Ayanna Pressley doesn't even see her own prejudice when she's pushing this idea that, a woman's entitled for a position because she's a woman. Men are not entitled to positions of power because they're men. Only the top 1% of men actually become CEOs. But because all those CEOs happen to be male, you want to put this fake facade that, men run everything, systematic racism, systematic sexism, whatever victimhood Olympics you want to push out. And I'm honestly getting tired of it. What about you guys? What do you guys think about Ayanna Pressley's track record? Her thoughts about a white man falling up? And can you point out numerous examples of how black women fell up in the Democratic Party, at least? How women like Jen Psaki, who I thought was a bad press secretary, she got her own show at MSNBC. I can name numerous examples of it happening the other way. But for some reason, there's such a hyper focus on what white men do. And then Jewish people get mad when these same black liberals do the same ish to them and say it's anti-Semitism. This is what white people have been dealing with a long time. And this is why a lot of white people are getting mad at Jewish people, because they're like, now y'all jumping in. When they were saying, look at all these people in positions of power. They're white, they're male, and they're pale, they're stale. Quiet. Now they direct that same vitriol to Jewish people. Now the Jewish people understand. Now they want them kicked out of college campuses. Now they want him banned. And this is the hypocrisy a lot of white people, white Americans are feeling about our current political status right now. That the Republicans are willing to pass bills to censor speech against Israel, anti-Israel critiques, protests, and all that stuff. But when it was affecting white conservatives or conservatives in general, not a peep out of them. And now you see why there's some friction in the conservative right with how the Republicans are responding to the whole Israel matter. But I digress. I think I've been rambling too much. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What you guys think? I know I've been sounding weird. For some reason, it sounds perfect. The audio sounds perfectly fine for me, but for some reason, it's reverberating. And I'll try my best to fix it. But if not, I'll probably have to buy myself a new mic. But hey, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe once again, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.